Good morning and welcome to WHIO Reports, a community service of News Center 7. I'm Jim Oddie. Thanks for being with us this weekend. You know, today on the program, we're turning our attention to the northern part of the Miami Valley, Steve Baker territory, I call it. Grand Lake St. Mary's has been in the news for the last couple of summers about problems there with the lake and the impact on local businesses. This morning, we'll get an update on the lake itself and find out what's being done here locally to boost that local economy. Also, we're going to look ahead long-term to find out what's ahead for the region here. Let's meet our guests on the program this morning. They're all here talking about the lake. Tim Lovett is president of the Lake Improvement Association. Milt Miller, the chairman of the Lake Restoration Committee. And the boss, Jim Zeringer, is the director of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. Director, thanks for everybody coming down for this big event. And Tim, we'll start with you. Give us a little bit of background about your association with the lake and then also your group, your organization working now to make improvements there.
Okay. I got involved in the lake in probably 2009 with the Lake Improvement Association. I'd been around that area since 2004 with my wife, and I'd built a house in the area. And we probably didn't do our due diligence as much as we should have and realized that the lake, after we'd been there for a while, was having some issues. So we decided to get involved, and we got involved with the Lake Improvement Association, at which time in 2009 I became the president. And have been in that position to date, and we spent most of our time actually working on issues that are related to the water quality of Grand Lake St. Mary's.
And there's a lot of work to be done. Milt Miller, your organization, and how long you've been working there?
About 2.5 years. And our group was spawned when we had the bloom year of 2010, and the challenge was issued that it's your lake, you need to be involved with it. So we established the Grand Lake St. Mary's Restoration Commission. And so it's about 2.5 years old. Very proud of what we've accomplished thus far. A lot of work yet to be done.
Jim Zeringer is the director of Ohio Department of Natural Resources. Literally is Grand Lake. That's your lake, is that correct? So you're responsible for it.
It's a big state park, yes.
But luckily you have the background. You know all about it. You know the history of the lake. You know what it's been through for the last 100 years. That's how old it is, plus.
Well, it has been around almost about 170 years. I think they started digging it in the 1830s, so coming up on almost 200 years old. And there's always been challenges with the lake, Jim. But the last, like Milt said, in 2010 we had a severe bloom, and ODNR, along with these gentlemen and the LRC, worked together and the farmers in the region to try to come up with some solutions. So it's been a good relationship. Everybody's been civil. There was a lot of finger pointing at first, but we knew something had to be done. So ODNR and the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Health and the Department of Ag all pulled together, and we're coming up with trying to come up with some good solutions.
Okay, let's talk about the lake itself, and I'm going to show you for those people watching on News Center 7. This is how I remember the lake. This is a fun place. It attracts a lot of people year-round, whether it's for fishing or boating. A lot of tourism, a lot of dollars floating around out there. But, and Director, I'll have you talk for a moment in layman's terms about what the problem, we mentioned the bloom that had come about on the lake. In layman's terms, define that problem briefly for us.
Well, the algae bloom gets fed by phosphorus. That's one of the biggest issues we have. And there's a lot of phosphorus that has been in the lake for, like we mentioned, 170 years. And there's a lot of phosphorus that continues to come into the lake from agriculture, from septic tanks, from lawns. There's many different types of additions that are coming in. But we're concentrating on farmers mostly because that's the biggest. There's about 50,000 acres. And so trying to reduce the phosphorus has been probably the biggest issue we have. Now, trying to deal with what we have in the lake by dredging and restoring wetlands are also another key part of this puzzle.
So, Milt, when this problem came about, what was the community response at this time? The last thing you want to do is go through a lot of upheaval, especially in a small community like this.
No, it was a galvanizing event. We are so very proud of the regional support we got, Jim. And I think the easiest way to put that into perspective, as our group came together, one of our first challenges was to have a plan for the lake, and that costs money. So we went on a fundraising drive, and in year one we raised $660,000 in the hardest of economic times. We're well past 1 million to this point in time. But I don't say that other than to demonstrate what kind of support we have. And one thing I would like to just add to Jim's comments that we're so appreciative of, I don't know in the history of Ohio that an administration has given the access to their key people that this one has. Every other week we have a conference call with our teammates and the director's cabinet, the EPA, the ODA, Jim's group, and we talk one-on-one. And it's a real dialogue. And that kind of support I don't think has been ever out there, at least locally for the lake. It's huge.
Tim Lovett, did it surprise you at all, the amount of rallying around the lake to preserve what you have and then to try and get ahead of this problem?
Well, there's been a lot of people throughout the years that have dealt with issues on the lake in terms of water quality. But as far as actually bringing the focus on that and putting a concerted effort, I think once the LRC was put together, come into place, and to some extent the 2010 algal bloom that we had drove a lot of immediate stuff to that, so it obviously put attention there. But I think those kinds of things, in addition to what the state has done to step up and help us, have shown people that, you know, this is an issue we can attack. We have it, so we have to deal with it. And I think we've shown in the local community as well as our work with the state that we're willing to do that, and people are very, very willing to step up and take this thing on.
Okay, so Director, let's talk about this problem that has come about with algae on the lake. This is something that was not created overnight, obviously is not going to be resolved overnight. Do you have a plan in place, the layman's terms, of how to attack this?
Well, probably several prongs, but the main thing we're going to try to do, Jim, is stop the phosphorus from coming in. And that's why the watershed has been declared a watershed in distress, which means farmers in that watershed have to do certain practices. They can't haul manure during the winter when the ground's frozen. They have to have nutrient management plans, which means they can only put fertilizer on their fields if the plants need the fertilizer. They have to incorporate the fertilizer. So the farmers are doing their part. Then we have the problem with the historic phosphorus that is in the lake, and trying to get that out by dredging and building wetlands. Those are the plans we have right now. And then removing rough fish and building wetlands. That's all part of a strategy that working with the Lake Restoration Committee that we've come up with.
Milt, how do you get the carp out of the lake? How do you do that?
You know, it's an interesting phenomenon, and it's based on science, by the way. When we have 8 strategic initiatives that we're pushing to cure the lake, one of which is rough fish removal. When we first brought it to the forefront, we were laughed at. People chuckled thinking, you know, but it's based on science. The nature of a rough fish is they're rooters by nature. They uproot the wetland plants. Their excrement is heavily concentrated in phosphorus. And then when they die, their body mass is 40% more concentrated in phosphorus. So they need to get out of there. So we've tried to make lemonade out of a lemon. We have a tournament every spring. It's coming up in May called Get the Carp Out of Here. And we actually reward people for coming up and fishing carp. And it's a fun day. I've told a lot of fishermen they're fishing for the wrong fish. Our fish average 8 to 10 pounds, and you can catch them almost like crappies and just have a wonderful time. Then support from the state, because we're talking quantities here. They've been so supportive. The local DNR, through Brian Miller and his team, actually have nets out that harvest the carp. We separate the game fish from the rough fish and then render the carp.
Sounds like a big challenge ahead of you.
It is.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the current season coming up. I know you have a lot of activities coming up around the lake, and stay with us. We'll be back with more WHIO Reports in just a moment. Welcome back to WHIO Reports. I'm Jim Oddie. We're talking about what's happening at Grand Lake St. Mary's, the drive to boost the economy there. Our guests are all involved with it. Tim Lovett of the Lake Improvement Association, Milt Miller of the Lake Restoration Committee, and Jim Zeringer, the director of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. Let's talk about what's happening this season. Tim, we'll start with you about people may get the wrong idea that perhaps, well, there have been problems at the lake. Maybe I should not go this season. This season might have problems as well. What do you tell people?
The lake's open for business. We've taken a pretty bad beating in the last few years in terms of press. We've seen a lot of things that have been said that quite frankly weren't true. The lake is open. We've got a lot of interesting opportunities going on this year from the LIA's perspective. We have a golf outing coming up here in June. We have our annual Barstool Open, which is in August, which attracts a lot of people. So there's opportunities out there. The other thing I'd like to say is, you know, we're attacking this issue from an LIA perspective in terms of we're promoting a cost share program in the lake. So if people are interested in their channels, we will help them afford to put in aeration in the water. So that's another unique thing we're doing this year. And the other thing I want to make sure people are aware of, if you want information, we have a very, very good website, Lake Improvement Association. Go to that. There's a lot of information in terms of what's happened, what's happening today, and what's going on in the future.
Yeah, I've been to the website, and we're going to show that several times throughout the program here this morning. So, and it is a really great resource. You can, if you've never been to the lake or been there maybe 10, 15 years ago, I was there as a kid and loved it. You go back and you wonder, hey, I wonder if that thing is still there. I wonder if this restaurant, this activity, if this certain festival is still there. Milt Miller, okay, yes, it's still there, and especially this season. I want to have you talk about that. The lake is back.
The lake is back, and it's so tragic how one event taints the future for so long. Our lake, as Tim said, is very much open. The fishing has been phenomenal. We've had a 2-year cycle now where the crappie fishing has been just phenomenal. The state had a 2-year stocking program with Sawguy. We had them coming from 3 states away. The sunsets remain breathtaking. You'll never see a prettier sunset than if you're on the lake. All the restaurants are open and available by lake, and there's so many facets that you can enjoy about our lake very safely, and we invite everybody back.
Director Jim Zeringer, so you have your plan in place. You have this incredible resource that's an economic engine for that entire region, yet this is your baby. This is the kind of thing you want to bring along. How do you approach this?
Well, we keep promoting it. Like Milt just mentioned, we stocked quite a few perch there last year. We keep promoting how safe the fish are to eat. We test the fish regularly, as we do on a lot of our lakes. We reduce the rates at our campground to help promote the camping in the area. And we're just going to continue to work with the agriculture community too to help promote the lake and help to keep the lake clean.
One of the things, Tim, I was going to bring up is as families look for a place to do their vacation a little bit closer to home because expenses are on the rise, this is a great opportunity to get away. If you're from the southern part of the Miami Valley, you want to get away to some place that is pretty reasonable but not terribly far, you're a great option.
Absolutely. I mean, and one of the things is that there are a lot of things to do in this area. Okay, it's not just the lake. There's the campgrounds and facilities around that revolve around those. But there's the key thing that I think is that this water is as Milt said, some of the prettiest water you'll see in the sunshine. You'll see it in the sunsets. There's all kinds of opportunities in terms of going out into the lake and using boats and using jet skis. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities. And if you want to go somewhere that is a very nice place, very, very friendly people, too. That's a key. That's one of the things I like about that area is the people down there are just super. St. Mary's is an excellent place to go.
Okay, so Milt, let's talk about the regatta, which is one of my all-time favorites. Got to be back this year?
It's going to be back.
Tell me about that.
Well, you know, it's a unique event for this part of Ohio. There's some very dedicated committee members that have worked hard to bring the boats in from all over the country and Canada. It's actually an international race. Unfortunately, last year we had some drought issues, as everybody remembers, and for the boaters' safety, we couldn't run the race. But the committee is saying they're back stronger than ever. The Lake Festival is an event that's held right on the lake. They have a big ski show that's going to be part of that. And we have Freedom Days, and both the Lake Festival and Freedom Days have magnificent fireworks displays over the lake. So everybody is engaged in doing their part to bring the proper attention to our wonderful asset.
One thing I wanted to touch on, unlike some other, and I won't name names, unlike some other recreational venues, Grand Lake is very much a family atmosphere.
It is. There is something, it sounds cliché, but there's something for everybody. I mean, there's putter golf for the kids. If you're a young person in love, the sunsets and night on the lake are gorgeous. If you're a fisherman, you're not going to find a better venue than our lake. There's just something for everybody. And as Tim has said, we're a very friendly bunch of people, and we deeply appreciate people coming into our area and enjoying our resource.
Jim, I wanted to ask you, as Director of ODNR, where Grand Lake fits into the scheme of things. You see all of your properties all around the state. There's probably 100 state parks or forest lands that you're managing on a daily basis. Where does Grand Lake fit into the scheme of things here?
Jim, it's the largest inland lake in the state of Ohio, and I think at one time the largest man-made inland lake in the country. But it fits in pretty high as far as day use at our campgrounds, and it's just a great place to visit. And in the summertime, you know, I grew up in Fort Recovery, which is probably about 20 miles from the lake. There is so much to do in Mercer and Auglaize County every weekend, so you can stay at the campgrounds and go to the Fort Recovery Jubilee or the Maria Stein Country Fest or any of the festivals in all the communities, and stay at the campgrounds and fish and enjoy some of the great outdoors that we have. You know, we can't offer the Kings Island type destination, but state parks are great places to witness your son or daughter catching their first fish, or just sitting there with no TV or no cell phone, even though that's all available there, but just getting away from it all. And Grand Lake St. Mary's offers that.
Going camping with my son, one of his many questions was, well, what kind of internet, what kind of Wi-Fi do they have in the campground?
You know, we have 75 state parks, and most of the lodges now offer Wi-Fi, like down in Houston Woods. But we have a lot of great parks right here in the area: John Bryan, Caesars Creek, Houston Woods, Sycamore, which is just a little bit west of here. So I encourage everybody to visit our state parks.
Get out your crystal ball and look a little bit further down the road beyond this season about how you make sure that, now that the lake is making a comeback, how you make sure that that continues. Keep that going. What can you do?
We keep it a priority, and we have a conversation every 2 weeks with these folks. Every 2 weeks, the directors and the folks from the LRC, talking about what we need to be staying on top of, what we need to continue. We're talking about maybe possibly another dredge. Do we add another wetlands after this? Do we continue treatment trains and other parts of the tributaries coming in? How's the rough fish removal doing? Do we need to step that up? So the dialogue will continue. And again, I can't say enough about the farmers in Mercer and Auglaize County that have stepped up to do their part. So we need to remain civil. We need to remain focused on this and continue to stay on the right path.
We're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the future of the lake and what's coming up this summer. Also, would encourage people at home, if you're interested, check the websites. There's a lot of interesting information and updated, I think, fairly well throughout the season about upcoming events at Grand Lake. Stay with us. Back with more in just a few minutes. I'm Jim Oddie. This is WHI Reports. Thanks for being with us. Tim Lovett, Miller, and Jim Zeringer are all with us this morning talking about what's happening at Grand Lake St. Mary's, an incredible resource for the Miami Valley. If you have not been there in recent years, I would strongly encourage that you spend some time there this summer. And I want to talk, Tim, about some of the events coming up just this season. It's funny, we have had such an incredibly bad winter. It's been so depressing, so dark, and I blame the weather people for that. Sorry, Rich. It's going to be a really great summer, I think. I think things will even out, and we're going to have a lot of blue sky. What's coming up at the lake this season?
Well, I hope your predictions are correct, because we certainly, after last year, it was a very tough summer with the heat and stuff. But what's going on this year is in June we have a golf outing, and in August we have our Barstool Open. In between that, we also have the Lake Festival days that are coming up. We have the regatta that'll be in August again. And again, all this information is on the website available to you.
So check the website.
There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of, as Jim mentioned earlier, a lot of local community events that go on, and very, very unique things to go see if you enjoy those kinds of things. So there's always something going on, and there's always something for somebody. So as we said before, the lake's open, and we're looking for people to come down this year and enjoy it.
Milt, is very often where families will say to you, you know, I was up at the lake last 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. What's it like now? And then you get that little opportunity to give your pitch. What would you tell people now?
And we take advantage of it every chance
you go
we
for
get. The other thing that's very interesting, people will stop in that have been prejudiced by the bloom year, and they're awestruck because the lake is a just remarkably beautiful place, and they will flat ask you, we didn't expect this. Where's the dead fish? Where's the dead birds? Where's the horrible bloom? It's not there anymore. It's a very enjoyable lake to be had by all today.
Jim Zeringer, look a little bit further down the road. Long term, as we mentioned earlier, the lake has had, and all lakes do, they have ups and downs and booms and busts in the economy, just like all other communities around lakes. This one the same. Your ideas, your expectations for this year and beyond?
Well, we'll continue to try to figure out really nationwide, if not worldwide, what's causing these algae blooms. I mean, it's not just in Mercer County. We had a pretty bad one in 2010, but they're all over the country. There's a lot of scientific work that's going into them. Lake Erie, for example, Jim, reached 80 degrees for the first time last year. And we had a pretty serious algae bloom in Lake Erie. And so some of these things are climate controlled, Mother Nature controlled, what's triggering them. We do know that phosphorus feeds them, and so we're going to continue to work on trying to reduce the amount coming in and trying to get the phosphorus that's in the lake out. So we're going to continue to do that and do trials with farmers on field tiles. One of the biggest changes in agriculture over the past 30 years are field tiles. And so we want to see if that's a contributor to some of these watersheds, and maybe that's where a lot of the dissolved phosphorus is coming from.
Hey, that's all the time we have in our program this morning. I want to thank you for coming down to the news center here to talk about Grand Lake. And I would mention for people at home, if you are interested in any of the activities there, check our website and also the website of Grand Lake. Just do a search out there. You'll find all kinds of good scheduling information and the website of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. While you're on the web, check our website as well. It's all at WHIOTV.com. You'll see today's top news stories, the weather, and I'll be checking baseball scores this weekend, by the way. Check us out on Facebook. I'm on Twitter as well. That's our program this morning. Thanks for being with us this weekend. I'm Jim Oddie. I'll see you next week. And WHI Reports.